My MIL attacked me at 8 months pregnant because we're having another girl. If someone had told me years ago that my biggest danger during pregnancy wouldn't be medical complications but my own mother-in-law, I would have laughed in their face. Back then, I still believed families were strange but mostly harmless. I didn't know yet that my husband's family carried a secret that twisted everything: past, present, and ultimately my safety. The story starts long before the attack. Before the home invasion. Before the nights when I slept with one hand on my belly and the other gripping my phone, terrified of what his mother might try next. It begins with a myth, one whispered so often that everyone treated it like a scientific fact. No daughters have ever been born on our side, my MIL told me during our engagement dinner. Her tone wasn't celebratory, it was stern, almost prideful. Our men only pass down sons. It's our legacy. I remember smiling politely, not thinking too much of it. People love their strange family trivia. Some claim royal blood. Others brag about being related to historical figures. His family bragged about never producing girls. Odd, but harmless, or so I thought. Fast forward to our wedding night. We were exhausted, still half buzzing from champagne, when she cornered me near the hallway. She gripped my arm harder than necessary, her nails digging into my skin. "Give us our son," she whispered, like she was casting a spell and threatening me at the same time. "Don't fail this family." I laughed it off later, thinking she was being dramatic. My husband brushed it away too, saying she'd always been strange about traditions. If only we had listened to what that moment was really telling us. Because when our first child was born, a perfect, tiny girl with soft brown hair, Mill's reaction told me everything. My husband cried with joy. His mother froze, staring at the baby like she was looking at something broken. "That nose?" she muttered a week later when my husband had stepped out of the room. "Definitely not from our side." The insinuation hit me like cold water. I let it slide. She was getting older, often unwell, and picking fights seemed unnecessary. For a while, life settled. My daughter grew, happy and bright. My husband adored her. I thought maybe, just maybe, we would all adjust. But when I got pregnant again, the strange tension returned. The way she would stare at my stomach too long. The way she asked overly curious questions about medical appointments. Then came the ultrasound. Another girl. We announced it gently, trying to ease her into it. But nothing could have prepared us for her reaction. She didn't just cry, she collapsed into hysterics. "That is not our grandchild," she shrieked in front of the entire family. "Two girls? Impossible. She's cheating. She must be." She jabbed a shaking finger toward me. I forgave the first one, but I will not allow this again. My husband snapped so suddenly that everyone went silent. He shielded me with his body and told her she would never see us again. And as we walked out, he said the words that shattered whatever bond he still had with her. "I love my daughter more than I have ever loved you." We cut contact entirely. No calls. No visits. Nothing for 3 months. Then, stupidly, we gave her another chance. 8 months pregnant, swollen, tired, and hopeful, we agreed to meet her for dinner under one condition. She apologized. Instead, she waited until the waiter walked away, then leaned forward and said, almost sweetly, "I want paternity tests for both children." I stood to leave. That should have been the end of it. But she grabbed my clothes, yanked me backwards, and hissed loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "You're not running away, you lying whore." Her hand flew across my face before I could react. My husband lunged between us, shouting, and all I remember next is the blur of her arm swinging again. This time throwing a heavy snow globe straight at my head. It connected. I fell. Hard. Blood. Shock. And her voice screaming something as she lunged toward my stomach. I thought that moment would be the end of the nightmare. But the real darkness in his family hadn't even shown itself yet. The memory of hitting the restaurant floor is something my mind replays in fragments, like snapshots that don't quite belong to the same moment. The cold tiles against my palms. The metallic taste of blood. The weight of 8 months of pregnancy dragging me down as I tried to curl around my belly. And my mother-in-law, my husband's mother, trying to kick me while I was lying there bleeding. My husband grabbed her around the waist and shoved her back with a force I'd never seen from him. Chairs toppled. People gasped. A waiter yelled for someone to call 911. But all I could hear was the pounding of my own heartbeat and the desperate thought looping in my mind. Please don't let anything happen to my baby. They rushed me to the hospital. 6 stitches. 4 days of fetal monitoring. The doctors said my daughter was miraculously unharmed, but the fear didn't leave my body for a second. While I lay in that hospital bed, an officer came to take my statement. My MIL had already contacted the police claiming my husband assaulted her when she tried to greet me. She conveniently left out the part where she hurled a heavy glass object at my skull. But the truth caught up quickly. My father-in-law, who rarely contradicted his wife, told officers exactly what happened. Maybe guilt finally outweighed fear. Or maybe he knew continuing the lie would put an unborn child at risk. Whatever the reason, he admitted she attacked first. All of it. She was arrested. Finally. For a few days, I allowed myself to breathe. I believed this nightmare was ending, that justice would keep her far away from us. But then my husband's cousin called. He sounded terrified. "There's something I need to tell you," he said. "Something my grandmother told me before she died. Something about the whole no daughters born in the family thing." My stomach clenched. "It's a lie," he said. "Not a misunderstanding. Not a medical myth. A deliberate, calculated lie." He explained that a great-aunt had actually given birth to a girl in 1917, but the family forced the baby into adoption to cover up an unwed pregnancy. They crafted the no girls legend to prevent anyone from discovering the scandal. A neat little story to protect their reputation. My head spun, and then he added, "That's not even the worst part." In 1953, another woman in the family gave birth to twin girls, healthy babies. The family didn't send them away. They didn't adopt them out. They got rid of them. His voice cracked when he said it, like the words tasted toxic. The twins didn't die of sickness like the family had always claimed. They were taken from their mother and disposed of, buried on the family property. "And, your Amel knows," he whispered. "She's known her whole life." The room felt like it dropped 10 degrees. My throat went dry. Then things got worse. An hour later, my husband received a call from his father. His words came fast and panicked. "Your mother made bail. Don't ask me how. And, she keeps saying things about fixing the girl problem the way our ancestors did. I don't know what that means, but..." The line went dead. I didn't have time to process it, to breathe, to panic. Because at that exact moment our doorbell rang. My husband looked through the peephole. His face went gray. "She's here," he whispered. "And she's not alone." 2 unfamiliar men stood beside her. I grabbed my phone with shaking hands and dialed 911. Through the door, her voice came sharp and cold. "We're family. Open the door. We need to discuss the baby." My husband shouted for her to leave. "The police are coming." Her reply chilled my blood. "The police can't stop family traditions. We've handled daughters for generations. Your wife will understand." The moment I heard the lock crack, something inside me froze solid. Fear so sharp it felt metallic slid down my spine. 8 months pregnant, already injured from the last attack, and now trapped in my own home with a woman who believed my babies didn't deserve to exist. My husband shoved a baseball bat into my hands, then immediately yanked it back when he realized I could barely lift it in my condition. He pressed it into his own palm instead. "Go upstairs. Now," he whispered, voice shaking. "Lock the bedroom door and call 911 again. Don't hang up." I moved as fast as my swollen body would allow, one hand clutching my belly, the other gripping the railing as I climbed. Below me, I heard the front door finally give way, with splintering, hinges groaning. Then her voice. "Where is she?" Not "where are they?" Not "where's my son?" Just me. Just the pregnant woman she believed needed to be handled. My husband shouted for her to leave, to stop, to think. His voice was loud, but hers cut through everything like a knife dipped in ice. "You don't understand, son. If you won't do what needs to be done, I will." I slammed the bedroom door behind me and turned the lock with trembling hands. My phone was still connected to dispatch. "They're inside," I whispered, breath shaky. "She said she's going to stop my baby from being born." The dispatcher's voice was calm, steady. "Officers are on the way. Stay on the line." I backed away from the door, my entire body vibrating with adrenaline. Feet pounded up the stairs. 2 sets. Then a third. Not just my MIL, the 2 men with her. My husband's voice echoed up the staircase, strained and furious. "Don't you dare touch her." Then the thud of bodies colliding. I pressed myself against the far wall and hit record on my phone. If I died, someone needed to know what happened. If my daughter survived inside me, someone needed proof of what her grandmother tried to do. The doorknob twisted. Slowly at first, then harder. Then the pounding started. "Open the door," my ML crooned, voice disturbingly calm. No need to be scared. This is how our family survives. I slapped my hand over my mouth, terrified she'd hear my breathing. Down the hall, my husband screamed at her to stop. One of the men cursed, something about him getting in the way. A loud crash followed, a scuffle, boots scraping against the floor. Then a sickening sound, my husband gasping as if knocked backward. The doorknob turned again. This time, it clicked. The lock I'd twisted seconds ago popped loose. The door shuddered, then slammed open so violently it hit the wall behind it. She stood framed in the doorway, her expression unnatural, twisted with determination and something far more unhinged. "There you are," she said softly, stepping toward me. "This won't take long." She lunged. I screamed. She was so fast, faster than an older woman should have been. Her hands shot toward my stomach, fingers curled like claws. But before she reached me, someone grabbed her from behind. My husband. He pulled her back by the shoulders so hard she stumbled. She shrieked, fighting him, trying to claw past him to reach me. Then everything became chaos. The two men rushed down the hall. One grabbed my husband's arm. The other tried to pin him from behind. My husband elbowed one, shoved the other, doing everything in his power to keep them away from me. "Gio!" he roared. "Call for help." I am. I cried, holding the phone out for the dispatcher to hear the entire struggle. Sirens wailed outside, growing louder, closer, like salvation tearing through the night. My ML heard them too. Her entire demeanor shifted as if someone flipped a switch. She stopped screaming. She stopped thrashing. Her face smoothed into something calculating. Then she noticed my phone. Recording. Her eyes widened just as 4 police officers thundered up the stairs, weapons drawn. "Hands up," they shouted. The 2 men dropped immediately. My husband stepped back, panting. "My MIL?" She burst into fake hysterics, pointing at us and sobbing about how she feared for her life. But the officers had heard enough through the dispatcher's line. And they'd seen the broken door. And my recording caught everything. I thought the break-in would finally end things. But the arrest only opened the door to a century of buried crimes, literally. The police swarmed the hallway like a storm, shouts, metal handcuffs snapping shut, the scuffle of heavy boots on the floor. My MAL dropped her act the moment officers moved toward her. The tears stopped instantly, replaced by cold fury. "She's lying," she screamed, pointing directly at me. "She's poisoned my son against his own blood. I was only trying to protect him." The officers ignored her. They'd heard the recording. They'd seen the broken-in door. They knew. One officer knelt beside me, speaking gently. Are you hurt? Is the baby okay? Just nod or shake your head for me." I don't know," I choked out, still shaking. She tried to hurt my stomach." My husband was still breathing hard, face flushed with anger and fear. His knuckles were split and bleeding from fighting off 2 grown. My husband covered his face with both hands. "How many?" he whispered. "How many girls?" "We don't have an exact number," Violet said gently. "But we're opening a cold case investigation into what looks like a generational pattern of violence against infant daughters." Violence. Infant daughters. My chest tightened. My unborn child kicked softly, almost as if sensing my panic. "So this wasn't just, and I couldn't finish the sentence. "She targeted you because you were carrying a girl," Violet said bluntly. "Because she believed she had to correct what she saw as a family defect." My husband flinched like the words were physical blows. I felt sick. I felt cold. And suddenly, overwhelmingly unsafe, like my daughter and I were still in danger, even with MIL behind bars. Then Violet added one more thing. "Your MIL made a phone call before the break-in. A call to someone in the police department. Someone who pushed her bail through unusually fast." My stomach dropped. Corruption. It wasn't over. Not even close. I thought my MIL was the only monster in the story, until the evidence revealed an entire bloodline built on buried daughters. When Detective Violet said the word corruption, something inside me dropped, like my stomach forgot it was supposed to stay in my body. I already knew my MIL was dangerous. I knew she was violent, unhinged, obsessed with this sick legacy. But the idea that someone inside law enforcement helped her escape custody? That changed everything. "We've identified the officer who expedited the bail," Edwin said, flipping through his notes. "He's your father-in-law's nephew." My husband's head jerked up. "My cousin." "By blood, yes. He used his position to override standard procedure and push your mother out the door within hours." "So she would come for us," I whispered. The detectives didn't deny it. We've already placed him on suspension, Violet continued. Internal affairs is involved. But you need to understand, your MIL didn't act alone. She had support, and she had a plan. My throat tightened. Plan. The word made my skin crawl. Which means, Violet added gently, there may be other relatives who still believe in this tradition. My husband swore under his breath, pacing the small hospital room like an animal trapdoor had just opened beneath his feet. She's always been extreme, he said. Controlling. Manipulative. But to believe in killing babies? For generations. His voice cracked. Why didn't anyone stop them? Violet exchanged a look with Edwin. A heavy one. A look that says this isn't the first time we've seen families protect monsters. We need to tell you something else, she said. About the burial sites. My heartbeat stuttered. Burial sites. I echoed. Edwin pulled out another file. Your father-in-law gave us 3 precise locations on the family property. Areas where he believes his mother and grandmother hid the remains of infant girls. My husband went absolutely still. Bones, he whispered. You think you'll find bones? We've brought in cadaver dogs, Edwin said. The dogs alerted at 2 spots. My breath left my lungs like a punch. So they're real, I whispered. The stories, the rumors, all of it. They're not rumors, Violet said softly. Not anymore. Tears spilled down my husband's face. He didn't even wipe them away. My family murdered their own children, he whispered. Their own daughters. And they treated it like pride. I reached for his hand, but his fingers were ice cold. You didn't know, I murmured. You didn't do this. Didn't I? He choked out. I repeated the myth. I believed the lie. I laughed about it. I bragged about it without knowing what it meant. His voice broke. Those were babies. My relatives killed babies. I squeezed his hand harder. You're breaking the cycle. That's what matters. He nodded but didn't look convinced. Then Violet added, there's more. My husband let out a hollow laugh. Of course there is. Your MAL mailed something before her arrest, she explained. It arrived at your house earlier today. A chill ran through my body. Mailed what? An unmarked package, Edwin said. Inside were 2 tiny hospital bracelets from 1953. Infant-sized. The name scratched out. My husband staggered back against the wall, staring at the detectives like he couldn't process any more horror. And a note, Violet continued. In your Mill's handwriting. My hands trembled. What did it say? She recited it from memory, voice steady and grim. Some family traditions are worth preserving. I gasped. My husband looked like he might be sick. She mailed trophies, he whispered. From murdered babies. Yes, Violet confirmed. And she wanted you to see them. To understand what she thinks your daughters represent. My instinctive reaction was to cover my stomach, shielding my unborn child from something that wasn't even physically present. That's when the hospital intercom beeped overhead. Security to the front desk, urgent. All 4 of us froze. A nurse rushed into the room. You need to stay inside. Lock the door. What happened? I asked, dread pooling in my gut. Your father-in-law is here, she said, breathless, demanding to know which room you're in. My heart stopped. He's shouting that he needs to see his granddaughter before he dies. He isn't allowed in here, my husband snapped. This is exactly what we warned. That's not the problem, the nurse cut in. He isn't alone. My skin prickled. Who's with him? I asked. She swallowed hard. 2 men who matched the description of the ones who broke into your home. The room spun. What? My husband exploded. They should be in jail. They posted bail an hour ago, Violet said darkly, grabbing her radio. I didn't authorize it. Someone else processed it. Corruption again. So they're here. I whispered. Yes, the nurse said. And they're demanding access to the maternity wing. I thought the hospital was the safest place we could be. Until the monsters walked right through the front doors. The moment the nurse said they were demanding access to the maternity wing, something inside me slipped into pure survival mode. A cold, detached clarity settled over me. The kind you feel right before a car crash. My husband shot to his feet. They can't be here. They can't. How did they even get bail? Someone pushed it through, Detective Violet said, already pulling her badge from her jacket. Someone with authority. Someone who shouldn't have it. She clicked the safety on her holster with a quiet, ominous snap. Stay in this room. Do not open the door for anyone except hospital security or uniformed officers we send. Edwin was right behind her, radio already crackling with rapid instructions. Lock down the floor. Nobody gets in or out. The nurse rushed to the doorway and slammed the heavy sliding door shut, then twisted the lock so hard her knuckles turned white. My husband moved instinctively in front of me, acting like a shield even in a hospital gown and socks. Dad wouldn't hurt us, he said, but his voice wavered. He wouldn't. Not like her. I didn't say anything, because I didn't believe that anymore. Fear does strange things to people. Loyalty does even stranger things. If his father had protected his wife's crimes for decades, what else would he excuse? There was shouting outside the room, muffled but sharp. A man yelling. Then another voice led on top. Footsteps rushed down the hall. I grabbed my husband's hand. It's happening again, I whispered. He shook his head. Not this time. They won't get anywhere near you. But I heard the strain in his voice. The disbelief. The exhaustion. He was breaking under the weight of his own family's darkness. The hallway noise suddenly intensified. A loud crash followed by someone yelling, "Sir, you need to step back." A different voice shouted, "You don't understand, she's my granddaughter." Then, horrifyingly, "She needs to be corrected." My husband flinched like he'd been shot. That wasn't. No. No, no, no. He didn't say that. But we both heard it. His father wasn't here to visit. He wasn't here to apologize. He wasn't here to check on my injuries. He was here to finish what his wife started. Moments later, the muffled shouting escalated into a chaotic eruption. Boots running. A scuffle. A crash so loud it rattled the walls. Then Violet's voice cut through everything like a blade. "Hands where I can see them. Down. Now." Another voice screamed. He pushed her. "Grab him." And then, a thump. A groan. Edwin yelling, "Get cuffs on him. All of them. Now." My husband squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt. "Please tell me that was security. Please tell me." His voice broke. We didn't breathe again until Violet pounded on our door. "It's us," she called. "Open up." My husband unlocked it, and the door slid open to reveal Violet, hair slightly messy, breathing hard, but steady as stone. "It's under control," she said. "For the moment." "For the moment," I echoed, dread twisting my stomach. She nodded grimly. "Your father-in-law fought officers when we stopped him. So did the two men. They're all in custody downstairs." Relief washed through me. Brief, shaky, fragile. Then Violet added, "We need to move you. Now. This room is compromised." "Compromised?" my husband repeated. "How? You said the floor was locked down." She hesitated. And that hesitation told me everything. "There's reason to believe," she said carefully, "that someone inside this hospital told them where you were." My blood ran cold. "No," I whispered. "Not here too. Not the hospital." "We don't know who," Violet said. "Not yet. But someone helped them get past the first checkpoint. Someone with access." My husband's jaw clenched. "This never ends," he said quietly. "How deep does this go?" Violet handed him a sheet of paper, an emergency relocation form. "As deep as 100 years, she said. "This isn't just a family tradition. It's a generational system. And there are still people willing to enforce it." I placed a trembling hand over my belly. My daughter kicked in response, reminding me she was still alive, still fighting. "We're moving you to a secured room near the NICU," Violet said. "No one gets in without triple clearance. We'll put officers at both ends of the hall." "And after that?" I asked, because the question hung between all of us. Violet looked at me with a heaviness that told me she had been waiting to say this. "You need to leave your house. Maybe even leave town. Permanently. Until every person tied to this tradition is identified and neutralized." I swallowed. "How long will that take?" She didn't sugarcoat it. "Months. Maybe years." My husband steadied me with both hands. "Then we do it," he whispered. "Whatever it takes." Violet nodded. "Good. Because what we found at the first burial site." She paused, eyes darkening. "Changes everything." I thought the twins were the only victims, but the ground held far more secrets than anyone imagined. They moved us through the hospital like we were evidence in a crime scene. 2 officers in front, Two behind, Violet and Edwin flanking us. Not even my husband was allowed to push my wheelchair. A nurse did it while gripping the handles like she was steering a bomb. The secured wing was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels intentional, like walls are holding their breath. Once inside the new room, Violet double-checked every lock herself before finally sitting down across from us, her expression grim. "All right," she said softly. "It's time to tell you what we found at the property." My husband stiffened. "The graves." She nodded. I felt ice creep along my spine. "We took cadaver dogs to the 3 locations your father identified," she continued. 2 sites were positive the moment we arrived. The third, we're still investigating. I gripped the blanket over my stomach, as if I could shield my daughter from horrors buried before I was even born. "What did you find?" I whispered. Edwin opened a binder and laid a photograph face down on the table. He didn't flip it over. I realized then they were giving us the chance to say whether we wanted to see it. My husband nodded slowly, jaw clenched. Edwin turned the photo around. I wish I hadn't looked. I still see it when I close my eyes. Small bones, tiny and delicate, tangled in soil that had been undisturbed for decades. A scrap of cloth. Something that looked like a hospital bracelet, rusted and half-fused into the earth. My stomach lurched. My hand flew to my mouth. Tears blurred my vision. My husband leaned forward like he'd been punched in the chest. "Oh God," he whispered. Those are babies." "They are," Violet confirmed gently. "Female infants. Early testing shows the remains date back to the mid-1950s. Their DNA matches your family line." My husband shook his head violently. How could anyone do that? How did nobody know?" His voice cracked so abruptly it almost broke me. Violet continued, her tone low and steady. "Families like this don't advertise their secrets. They normalize them. They build myths to cover the crimes. They call murder a tradition. And everyone played along," my husband whispered. "Generation after generation." He put his face in his hands. I rubbed his back, even though my own shock felt like a weight crushing my ribs. Edwin cleared his throat softly, signaling there was more. "At the second site," he said, "we found older remains. Much older. Smaller as well. We believe they're infants from the 1920s or early 1930s. My husband's breath hitched. "How many?" "We won't have an exact number until the forensic team finishes extraction," Edwin said. "But based on bone count, the estimate is between 4 and 7. My vision blurred with tears. 7. I whispered. 7 babies? Just thrown away. Violet shook her head. Not thrown away. Hidden. Protected, in their eyes. Buried like secrets. The room felt too small. Too dark. Too heavy. I thought of my own daughters, the one kicking inside me, the one waiting at home, blissfully unaware of the nightmare that nearly stole her family. "These weren't stillbirths," Violet said. "They weren't illnesses. They were deliberate deaths. Suffocation, according to your father-in-law's testimony. Quick. Silent. Efficient." My husband gagged, pushing his chair back and pressing both hands to his mouth. I'd never seen him look so broken. "And your MIL was raised to believe this was honorable," Violet added. "Expected. The only appropriate solution." I couldn't breathe. My husband looked at the detectives with hollow eyes. "My family, they were monsters." "No," Violet said firmly. "She is a monster. The ones who killed those babies were monsters. You are not responsible for their evil." But my husband didn't seem to hear her. He whispered, "I share their blood. And your daughters share yours," Violet countered. "And you're choosing to break the cycle. That makes you the first good man in your bloodline in over a century." He closed his eyes, tears slipping down his cheeks. After a moment, he asked the question we were both too terrified to say aloud. "Are there more?" Violet hesitated. "We don't know," she said. "But the third site, we're waiting for confirmation." I felt the room tilt. "The third site?" I asked. "Yes," Edwin said quietly. "Where your father-in-law said his grandmother buried a baby in the late 1930s. My husband swallowed. "And you think another child might be there?" Edwin exchanged a look with Violet. "We think," Violet said carefully, "that the third burial might have someone far more recent." My heart stuttered. "Recent?" I repeated. "How recent?" "Within the last 20 years, Violet said. The room spun. My husband grabbed my hand, squeezing tight. Someone you both know, she added gently. Someone the family claimed died naturally. Silence. Heavy. Terrifying. I thought the past was buried. But the next secret waiting under the dirt was someone heartbreakingly close. The words someone you both know hit the air like a knife. For a moment, I couldn't even hear my own breathing. My husband froze beside me, jaw locking, shoulders tightening like he was bracing for an impact he couldn't avoid. Who? He finally whispered. Who are you talking about? Violet didn't answer immediately. She glanced at Edwin. They exchanged a look, one of those silent conversations seasoned detectives have when the truth is too sharp to hand over bare. Edwin was the one who finally spoke. The forensic team found something at the third site, he said carefully. Something that doesn't match the earlier decades. The soil compaction, the decomposition stage, the trace of synthetic fibers, all indicate the burial was far more recent. My pulse hammered in my ears. How recent? Within 15 to 20 years, Violet said quietly. My husband blinked. Twice. Slowly. The realization didn't hit him all at once. It washed over him like a cold tide rising up his spine. No, he said, shaking his head. Nobody in the family died then. Nobody. Not a child. Not a. You must be mistaken. But Violet didn't budge. We're not mistaken. He backed away as if distance would change the truth laid out in front of him. There were no children, he insisted. No babies. No siblings. No. Then he stopped. His breath caught. His eyes widened. I saw the moment it hit him. Because I remembered too. A story his mother had told me once, quietly, dismissively, while folding laundry. A story she said wasn't important. One she brushed off like dust. A story about a baby who didn't make it. My husband's voice cracked open. My sister. I felt the air leave my lungs. He looked at Violet, face drained of all color. Are you saying the body you found might be my sister? We believe it's a strong possibility, she said gently. Your father-in-law confirmed your mother had a pregnancy when you were 3. A girl. He staggered back like the floor had dropped out from under him. She said the baby died. She said it was a miscarriage. She said. That's what she believed, Violet said quietly. But your father admitted he wasn't with her when it happened. My husband sank into the chair, trembling. My mother killed my sister. His voice cracked again on the word mother, and something inside me twisted painfully. I reached for him, but he didn't seem to notice. He was staring past us, into the past, into memories he didn't know were poisoned. She told me I was lucky, he whispered. Lucky to be a boy. She said it every birthday. I thought she meant she was grateful I survived childbirth. I thought she meant. His hands shook violently. I didn't know she meant this. I swallowed hard, hating the truth but unable to deny it. Violet leaned forward. We won't know for sure until DNA testing is complete. But the initial indications are strong. My husband's breath came fast and broken. So she did it. She killed her own daughter. And then raised you, Edwin added gently, to carry the same fear, the same pressure, the same traditions she believed were righteous. My husband stared at his hands like they no longer belonged to him. I shared meals with her. I hugged her. I trusted her. And she killed my baby sister. Tears streamed down his face, and I wrapped my arms around him, holding him even as my own fear roared like a storm inside me. He buried his face against me, sobbing in a way I had never heard before. Raw, wounded, broken. She could have done that to our daughters, he choked out. She would have. She tried. She tried. I nodded, tears dripping into his hair. But she didn't succeed. And she won't ever get another chance. Edwin cleared his throat softly. There's more. My husband let out a strangled sound. Why? Why is there always more? Violet hesitated, then said, before your Amael was arrested the second time, she made another phone call. To who? I whispered. Violet handed us a transcript. One line was highlighted. My husband read it aloud, voice trembling. If I don't finish what my mother started, someone else will. We stared at the words in stunned silence. Then Violet said the part that nearly made my heart stop. That wasn't the disturbing part. The disturbing part is who she said it to. We held our breath. She called a woman, Violet said quietly. Someone she referred to as the next matriarch. My stomach dropped. There's another one. I whispered. Violet nodded solemnly. Yes. Someone younger. Someone still out there. Someone who believes in the tradition and is ready to take your Mills place. I thought the nightmare ended with my Mills arrest, but the next monster in line was younger, smarter, and far closer than we realized. I felt my stomach knot as the words sank in. Another one. Someone younger. Someone already believing in the twisted traditions that had haunted our family for generations. My husband's hands trembled around the transcript. Who is she? He whispered. Violet exchanged a glance with Edwin, then said, "We've been tracking phone records, social media, and financial transactions. There's one name that keeps appearing. She's well-educated, respected in the community, and frighteningly devoted to your mother's ideology." I swallowed hard. So she's grooming someone. Edwin nodded slowly. Not grooming. She is ready. She's planning to carry it forward. Your Mills work wasn't finished, and this woman is determined to complete it. My husband's face paled. Closer, how close? Closer than you think, Violet said. Someone in your immediate circle. Someone you'd never suspect. The room went silent. My mind raced. Friends, family, neighbors, but none fit the pattern. And yet, Violet's calm, methodical voice made it undeniable. This wasn't just paranoia. This was calculated. Personal. We spent the next few hours piecing together every meeting, every unexplained absence, every casual comment that now seemed loaded with hidden meaning. Then it hit him. My sister-in-law, he said finally, almost in a whisper. I always trusted her. She was so charming, so helpful. She's always been around, caring for the kids, giving advice, making herself indispensable. His voice broke. I never suspected her. Violet nodded grimly. Exactly. She fits the profile perfectly. She's intelligent, manipulative, and has access to everything. And she idolizes your mother. I felt bile rise in my throat. But, why? Why would she follow that path? Edwin leaned back. Because power is seductive. Because fear can be inherited. Because your MIL created an empire of control, and your sister-in-law was the perfect apprentice. My husband sank into the chair, hands covering his face. I've been blind, he whispered. I thought we were safe. I thought the nightmare ended with my mother. Violet placed a steady hand on his shoulder. It ended only if you act. Now you know. Now you can stop it before it spreads further. I realized then what needed to happen. Fear had no place in our family anymore. We had to break the cycle. We worked with Violet and Edwin to gather evidence quietly, carefully. Every interaction, every hint of manipulation, every moment of control she tried to exert was documented. We didn't want confrontation. We wanted proof. Days later, the authorities moved. My sister-in-law was questioned, and under the weight of evidence, she confessed. Not everything, but enough. She admitted to following her mother-in-law's teachings, to believing in the twisted tradition, and to planning actions that, if carried out, could have devastated our family. My husband and I watched as justice was served. Relief washed over us, but it was tempered by grief, the grief of knowing how close we had come to losing control of our lives again. We returned home that evening, exhausted but resolute. I can't believe it, my husband said quietly. All these years, all this darkness, hiding in plain sight. I squeezed his hand. But we found it. We faced it. And we stopped it. Together. He nodded slowly, a shadow of a smile forming despite the tears. Together, he echoed. The night fell outside, deep and quiet. I felt the weight of the past lifting, like smoke dissipating after a fire. The nightmares that had haunted our family for generations would no longer define us. There would be healing, slowly. There would be rebuilding. And above all, there would be vigilance, a promise never to allow fear, manipulation, or control to rule our home again. Because some traditions aren't meant to be carried forward. Some shadows aren't meant to linger. And some monsters, no matter how close, must be stopped. We had survived. We had faced the darkness. And for the first time in decades, our family could breathe. The nightmare was over.